Hello everyone, welcome back to Morton's On the Move. I'm Tom, and today we're taking on another RV repair where you're going to be replacing the equalizers between our trailer axles. So we recently replaced the tires on our trailer, and while I was replacing the tires, I got a good look at the suspension system in our RV. And I found out that we've got a pretty significant problem. Between tandem or triple axle trailers, you have what's called an equalizer. It's a device that hangs between the springs that hold the axles up and allows the axles to flex, and it rotates back and forth to equalize the pressure between the axles. Most of the time, trailers use just a solid metal equalizer, which works great, but it doesn't provide a lot of cushioning for the trailer. Our trailer is equipped with the MORyde RE system, or rubber equalizer system, and it uses a big rubber block to hang the trailer on. Here's one of these rubber blocks. Basically, there's two of them on either side of the metal equalizer. They sandwich between it like that, and the axles sit on either side of it here and here. These rubber blocks provide amazing shock absorption from the springs to the trailer, and also provide the flex to allow the axles and the springs to work back and forth and take the pressure off between the axles. The problem with our system is that our trailer is 13 years old, and the rubber blocks that are installed on one side of our trailer are tearing and threatening to basically rip in half. While this is a great system and provides a cloud-like ride for our RV, it does wear out over time. MORyde told me that these typically last 7 to 15 years, and we're at 13 years, so it's not unexpected that they might be failing, but we are gonna tear into this today and replace these rubber blocks on our RV. All right, so I'm underneath the trailer right now, and here's what we got going on. So this is our equalizer block on our RV, and you can see that we've got the rear axle and the front axle, and the springs come together and they connect to this block right here. Most trailers just connect to a metal bracket that sometimes has a piece of rubber between it, but this actually sits on those rubber blocks that sit behind this metal plate here. The failing rubber is inside here. You can also tell that it's significantly sagged over the years. This should actually sit well below the bracket here, and it has worked its way up. So we're actually leaning to this side as well, and it was one of the reasons that I really inspected the system. I was trying to figure out why we're leaning to the side. It's because these blocks are failing. To do this project, we need to take the tires off the axles so that we can drop the axles down, take the weight off the axles, and actually disconnect the springs and remove this entire block. We're gonna do that by putting jack stands under the front and back and using our trailer leveling system to lift the trailer, and we're gonna take the weight onto these blocks, and then you're gonna be able to drop these axles down and take the whole system apart. All right. Good. All right, go ahead and lift the front up a little.
Extend it?
Mm-hmm. Go a little further. Right there. All right, go ahead and lower down. So we've got this side of the trailer well supported on jacks now. We've got two jacks in the back, the front landing gear and the front jack stand here. So it's well supported on this side. At this point now, we're gonna go ahead and remove the tires from the axles so that we can start to disassemble the suspension itself. Whenever jacking up any vehicle, be sure to have jack stands or additional supports in place in case your primary jack were to fail. All right, the tires are off. And now we've got this axle pretty much dropped all the way down. There's just a tiniest bit of jack holding it up. So now we're going to go ahead and loosen this bolt here and start taking apart the equalizer. This one's held up a little bit by that jack stand down there. We're gonna have to get the bottle jack under here, lift it up, drop it down further so that it's just on its own weight as well. And then we'll use these little jack stands to just hold the weight of the axle so that it doesn't fall when we disconnect it from the equalizer. Well, there we have it. The bolt is removed. This bolt actually appears to be in better shape than I expected. I was expecting that it would be pretty worn because, as you can see, it's got a grease fitting here that has been broken off for quite some time. A flaw of this design is that it rubs up inside there, and in really tight turns, when their axles shift side to side a little bit, it actually broke the zerk off on the inside of the metal up there. You can see where it used to wear. So I'm actually impressed in how good shape this bolt's in, and the bushing in here is not too bad either. Although I got new bushings, I also got new bolts just in case these weren't in such great shape. We might replace it anyway, but I definitely got new bushings as well.
It's important when disconnecting the leaf springs that the axles sit at the most neutral position possible. This is to minimize pressure on the bolts so that they can easily be removed.
All right, we're on to the other side now. I'm going to release the weight on this one until we're just barely holding it as well. And go ahead and take this one off too. It might take a little bit of tapping because these bolts have splines on them that bite into the axle or the eye bolt. Well, there we have it. It's loose now. This thing moves way more than it should. I can see it moving in those cracks. The cracks have kind of like filled in now that the weight's off it. But now we're going to go ahead and disconnect this whole equalizer by 4 bolts on this side and 4 bolts on the other, and remove the whole equalizer to replace the rubber blocks in there. And there we go! The equalizer. So here we go. Here's the original equalizer. Wow, it is really coming off of there. I feel like I could just rip it off. There's a giant tear through here. Here's the new rubber blocks. You can also see that these are significantly sagged from the other ones. There's lining it up. These are also considerably harder rubber. You can see this is a number 10 on this, and this one is a number 8. We're putting a little bit stiffer rubber on that should handle the weight of our trailer a little bit better as well. They used to make stronger rubbers, but this is the stiffest that MORyde now offers, which is rated for up to a 7,500 pound axle. We're running 8,000 pound axles, but we're not at that weight. We're more around 6,500 to 7,000 pounds on the axle, so we're well within the ratings.
These blocks look pretty bad, but luckily with a call to MORyde, we were able to get new ones in a couple days. Once you get to this point, rebuilding the equalizer is pretty easy. There are 4 bolts to remove that sandwich the rubber blocks to the metal equalizer.
We're going to go ahead and reassemble this, but before we do, I'm going to take out this bolt here, and I've got some new bushings that I'm going to install in here. As we talked about earlier, the grease zerks and the grease fittings just don't really work for this because of the angle and the metal inside there, so we're just going to put in these never fail bushings that are supposed to last a lot longer than nylon. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I got new bolts as well because it's always a good idea to replace these bolts if they seem like they need it, but and the bolts that I got, even though these are the longest bolts that I could have got from e-trailer, seem too short still. So we're gonna have to probably reuse the existing bolts, but luckily they look like they were in okay shape.
We removed the old bolts and bushings from the equalizer. The new never fail bushings are a very hard plastic and a very snug fit. We reinstalled the new rubber blocks onto the equalizer with the 4 existing bolts. We then installed the hanger and hanger bolt on its new never fail bushing.
Well, there we have it. We've rebuilt the equalizer. Now we're gonna go put 2 more bushings into the springs underneath the trailer and reinstall it.
We replaced these springs on this trailer about 20,000 miles ago, and the nylon bushings installed are clearly not holding up.
Boy, that one's pretty worn. Man. So with the new rubber blocks, as they're so much taller and not compressed, the axles won't line up, and they should be able to press down, but with the shock absorbers on and the dynamics of it, we can't get them pressed down. So we're going to use a jack and try to compress the rubber block a little bit and push it up into place. And there, it's already going. We had to use our truck jack because our other jack was not a low enough profile. Twisting to the back. Nice. We are now just going to tighten up all the bolts and raise the axles up using the jacks. Because our trailer was sitting a little low on this side, we had a board underneath the tires right here. We've removed that, and hopefully it'll sit a little more level. So we got everything put back together, and it's been working great. As we were finishing the project, we decided to replace the bolts and bushings in the additional spring eyelets. And when we did that, it was very challenging to get the springs lined back up, and the project took us late into the night, and we don't have any footage of that. Overall, while this was a relatively challenging project to tackle, we were able to do it all with tools that we carry with us on the road. We are very happy with the results, and the trailer now rides level again. Maybe even a little the other way, so we'll definitely be replacing the blocks on the other side at some point. Aside from not leaning to this side anymore, the never fail bushings that we installed are actually a lot quieter. We had a lot of creaking and squeaking before, and that's all gone, so that's really great as well. Since we finished the project in Alabama, we've traveled across the country, and we're now in the desert of Arizona, and everything has performed flawlessly. As always, thank you so much for joining us on our adventure, be it travel or repairs. We love having you along. If you aren't already subscribed, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.